Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. In the meantime, if you haven't already, change your attendee name to your first and last name and the block and street that you live on. And we'll be starting here in just a few minutes. Good evening again to those of you who joined us. Just one more reminder, if you haven't already, you can change your attendee name to your first and last name in the block that you live on. And we're going to get started in just a minute here. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. All right, we'll get started here. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our first public workshop for the City of Lancaster's comprehensive plan. This planning process is known as Planning Our Future Lancaster. And you're going to learn a whole lot more about this effort and also be provided an opportunity to offer input into this process. And with that, I'd like to hand it off to Mayor Sirachi.
There we go, unmuted. Good evening, everyone. I am Denise Sirachi, Mayor from the City of Lancaster, and I'm really delighted that you all are here to join us to talk about the comprehensive plan. And in most things, I think it is important to start with the why, which is to build a stronger and more equitable Lancaster block by block. And so tonight's conversation is really about charting a course for that vision over the next 20 years. Could I have the next slide, please? There's a lot that's happening right now as it relates to planning. And I wanted to just talk about this diagram, which shows you the overlap in the ways that the comprehensive plan the interim housing plan, the strategic plan that I reviewed at council last night, and the American Rescue Plan Act funds are all intersecting at this moment. And so while we are focused on where those overlapping circles are, it's really the comprehensive plan that is going to chart the course for the city over the next 20 years. Whereas the strategic plan is really about the next 4 years. ARPA and the American Rescue Plan funds are also about the next 3 to 4 years. And the interim housing plan is to help us walk and chew gum as we get farther along in the implementation of both our comprehensive plan and strategic plan. So I just want to take a moment to talk about all of these overlapping planning efforts, how they are working alongside one another at this moment. And the next slide, please, Douglas. I also just wanted to let you know, if you haven't already checked out Engage Lancaster, we are really, really excited about this online platform in which you can learn and share your ideas and thoughts about the American Rescue Plan, as well as the comprehensive plan and other projects that the city has underway right now. And so the best way for your voice to be heard, obviously, is by participating in meetings like this one, as well as the upcoming meetings related to the comprehensive plan, but also Engage Lancaster, which you can find at engagelancaster.com. And I'll make sure to get that in the chat feature if that is up and running for this session. And I believe that is all for me tonight. I'm really looking forward to hearing the dialogue and the presentation from our team. And with that, I will turn it back over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Sirachi. Here's a brief look at our agenda for the evening. I want to introduce the team that's working on this project and also provide an overview of the comprehensive plan. You'll get to hear from our consultant on that. And we also want to give you an update on what we're doing with community engagement in the city. And then we will begin an interactive engagement exercise after that. So first, I want to quickly introduce our team. The City of Lancaster is the project lead for this project. So many of our key staff are working on this day in and day out. A few of them are online here with me. We have Chris Delfs, who is our Director of Community Planning and Economic Development, and our Senior Planner, hey Chris, and our Senior Planner, Emma Hum. Hi, Emma. And I believe we also have some other staff here as well who are in the background supporting this really big effort, like Zaira, who is our Language Access Coordinator, and DJ, who's helping with marketing and tech. And I also see that we have some volunteers from our Planning Commission as well. So welcome to all of you and some other key partners like Lancaster City Alliance and many residents in the room. So in addition to that, I want to call out a few of these key stakeholders. The community residents are number one in this process, of course, and we're working hard to speak with you on a daily basis for this plan. Our comprehensive plan committee is a unique group of about 18 residents who are being trained in urban planning and group facilitation and diversity, equity, inclusion. And they are reviewing many of the engagement reports and the policy decisions that are being recommended through this process. So they are a key resident filter that we are investing in with education and other resources. We're also engaging stakeholders and key organizational leaders through one-on-one conversations and policy committees too. And of course, our consultant team is helping to manage this project and provide additional expertise throughout the duration. And these are the consultants that are helping with this effort. Bergman is the lead. They are a firm of architects, engineers, and planners, and they are managing a variety of sub-consultants that are bringing a lot of diverse expertise to this process. Eastwick Solutions and the Roz Group are helping with community engagement and outreach in the city. Forward Planning is our economic and market analysis team. And David Rouse is actually a Pennsylvania resident who has basically written some manuals on comprehensive planning and green infrastructure and is bringing years of expertise to this process. And with that, I will pass it off to Kimberly from Bergman for more.
Great, thank you, Douglas. And thank you everyone that is listening in this evening for carving time out of your night to learn more about this really important process that's underway in the city. I'm going to take just a few minutes to provide a high-level overview about the comprehensive plan process. So what is a comprehensive plan? It is, as the name implies, a planning document that really is intended to serve as a foundation to help guide decision-making within the city of Lancaster. The approach that we're utilizing here to do this particular update is really focused on a grassroots, ground-up initiative, really focused on robust community engagement to identify the key values and goals that are important to community members within the city. Ultimately, once completed, the plan will be really a foundation document for the city to use to identify potential zoning code amendments, policies, capital improvement projects, and potential collaborations and partnerships that the city can undertake. Our plan, using that community engagement process, will identify what topics are most important to residents and stakeholders within the city. Really, as I mentioned, establishing that foundation and framework that will not only look at short-term opportunities within the community, but also provide that long-term 20-year framework to really forecast and assess trends and opportunities over the long term as well. Ultimately, it will help all of the leaders within the city and all of the various departments make decisions around important policies and programs that impact all of the residents' daily lives. So the key elements of the comprehensive planning process and really the outcomes of our process are focused on understanding community values and priorities, creating an existing conditions report that we're referring to as Lancaster Today, developing a future land use plan, identifying goals and policies, and preparing an implementation strategy. The community values and priorities are really going to be defined by what we hear from community members in various engagement opportunities like tonight. So after we get through this brief presentation, we're really going to give you the opportunity to share feedback with us to help us understand what you as community members see as important topics to explore as part of this process. And this, Douglas and Emma will talk more about some of that engagement that's already been underway. The Lancaster Today report will also explore a wide range of topics, partially driven by feedback that we're hearing from you is important, but also making sure that we have a robust understanding of existing conditions, both physical conditions within the community, as well as those economic and market conditions that can really influence future direction within the city. So the report will address key topics listed here on the screen, and these are not all encompassing. We will be exploring other topics as part of this process as priorities emerge, but we'll certainly be looking at land use patterns and trends, zoning and regulatory placement, housing and housing affordability, equitable access to resources, transportation, and that includes transportation of all modes, public, vehicular, bicycle, pedestrian, parks and open spaces and natural areas, economic development, community services and infrastructure, and also the important resources, cultural and historic resources that you have within the community. The future land use planning process, which we'll be going through in detail with community members as well, will really look at which areas of the city should we be focusing new development opportunities, which areas of the city do we need to look at preserving and protecting existing character. Part of that process will be not only where does new development make sense, but what should that new development look like? What should the scale of it be? What type of development is appropriate in what places within the city and within the city's neighborhoods? Based on the priorities that we hear from community members, we'll develop a series of supporting goals and then ultimately policies and actions that will help the community achieve their goals to address their priorities. So this graphic just gives an overarching framework of what that process looks like. And as we move forward in the coming months, we'll be filling in all of the content to support this framework. And then finally, with regards to the implementation strategy, we will be providing a step-by-step action plan for the city and partner agencies and organizations to utilize to help facilitate implementation of the policies recommended within the comprehensive plan. This will identify phasing, so short-term actions, midterm, long-term actions, responsible parties, associated cost estimates where applicable, and potential funding resources to help the city achieve its goals. So what's the time frame for getting all of this work done? We did officially kick off this process with the city back in early summer and have been working on a number of early action initiatives focused on outreach with the city over that time. As you can see here, we are hoping to wrap up the document by fall of 2022, so just about a year from now. And you can see where the key milestones fall. This fall and winter, we are working on that Lancaster Today report and the inventory and analysis to identify key assets, opportunities, and challenges. As we move into the winter 2022 and spring 2022, we will be focused on future land use planning, as well as some preliminary goal and policy development, which will really be defined over the summer of 2022. And then wrapping up with the implementation strategy and final document next fall. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Douglas.
Thanks, Kimberly. The community engagement part of this plan is really the main thrust. This plan does have to engage all types of residents, all backgrounds and experiences, so that we can make sure to align the priorities and policy goals with the residents' desires and needs too. Next slide, please. So we want to hear from all community voices and make this a diverse and inclusive process. I'll tell you a bit about some of the ways that we're working on doing that in just a moment. Partly, we're utilizing interactive and creative techniques, things like public art, ways that help to break down some boundaries or some barriers to engagement, and really go to people in neighborhoods and in the settings that they're in to ask for their input and have conversations with them. We're also working to empower local leaders and build trust through the process. These are the engagement plan components. First is, of course, our project team meetings. Those help us to coordinate with our consultant and key stakeholders and city staff to make sure that we are keeping things on target. Second is the comprehensive plan committee. This is that group that I mentioned earlier, the 18 residents who are working really as a filter for the entire planning process. And are dedicating quite a bit of time to learning alongside of us and reviewing community engagement and the policies that are recommended. And we have a third-party consultant, Connect the Dots, who is helping to lead that group and develop, good norms and discussion techniques and make sure that that they are maintaining an inclusive and diverse dynamic. The third engagement component is key organizational leader meetings. We've been having one-on-one meetings and interviews. We've also been engaging them in some of the planning as well. These are folks that do hold access to key resources in the city or are large employers or stakeholders and can help provide some catalytic changes in the community alongside the residents. The fourth component is advisory committee meetings. These really are our policy committees, and they're comprised of local experts around a variety of topics. We have over 125 invitations out for 5 different policy groups, and they are helping to provide their expertise on what kinds of policies we should be creating based on the priorities and values identified by the community. Number 5 is the public workshops. This is one of those workshops. There will be several others throughout the process, and we hope that you'll follow along and join the next ones. Number 6 is the pop-up neighborhood events. We have attended about 20 or so pop-up neighborhood events throughout the city, things like job fairs and San Juan Bautista Festival, artful intersection events, and a variety of other happenings. And we welcome any opportunity to attend a neighborhood event. So if there's one that you have in mind, you can read and write it in the chat or reach out to us if you want, and we'd be happy to make an effort to be there. We're working with JP McCaskey and the school district, as well as other institutions of learning in the city to engage students to make sure that we're hearing from the young people who will be living in the city that this plan is helping to shape. Online engagement is, of course, a critical component of our outreach because of the pandemic. This is one expression of that, is here having this meeting with you. We're also, the Engage Lancaster platform that the mayor mentioned earlier is another important tool that we're regularly using. And finally, meetings in a box. This is an opportunity for us to provide residents a toolkit for hosting their own meetings, either with city staff present or not. This gives them all of the directions that they need, who to invite, where to host a meeting, how to ask questions, tips on facilitation, and ultimately how to relay that feedback to the city, either virtually or in hard copy. And I will pass it off to our senior planner, Emma Hum, to talk a little bit more about our engagement.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. So I'm just going to be talking a little bit about the engagement we've been doing thus far and what we have coming up. So these are just some photos. We were out for Mayor's Neighborhood Week, the San Juan Bautista Festival, gave a tour of the city to our consultants. And next slide, please. So these are our numbers. We've been keeping really close tabs on, how many people we've reached out to, how many people we've interacted with directly, social media posts, in-person meetings, virtual meetings, media articles, radio interviews. So we're really trying to reach out in any way that we can think of. We have a plan, but it's also an iterative process. So we're definitely open to the ideas the community might have about how we can reach out to folks and hear feedback in more and better ways. We have 5 advisory committees that was mentioned earlier before. These advisory committees are based on the Places 2040 categories, which is the county comprehensive plan. So thinking beyond boundaries, creating great places, connecting people, place, and opportunities, taking care of what we have, and growing responsibly. And the thing that's interesting about these groups is that they bring together people of different disciplines who may not always have a chance to meet and talk and see how their areas of interest overlap. So, we might have historic preservation people, but are they talking to the environmental preservation and the clean energy folks? So it's been really interesting to see how all those connections are really coming together just through our first round of advisory committee meetings. And then, of course, online engagement, ourfuturelancaster.com is our new website, just specifically for this planning effort. So any products, documents, information about upcoming events will be available on that website. And then Engage Lancaster, if you are not registered for Engage, please register for Engage Lancaster. Many of the city's projects, everything from public works projects, streetscape improvements, public art, you can comment on it at Engage Lancaster, and the comprehensive plan does have an Engage Lancaster project, so you can leave us comments and share your thoughts on Engage Lancaster as well. Upcoming events. So tomorrow we are going to be sort of around the city at a few pop-up events during the day, and then in the evening we'll be at Crystal Park for an evening event from 5:30 to 7:30. There will be free ice cream, and we'll be talking about the comprehensive plan and what's important and what we need to do better in the city. And then Market Square at Penn Square will be just on the square for most of the day from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. We have a couple of bands. We're also partnering with F&M Poetry Rolls. So we'll have giant whiteboards and magnetic words and really interesting ways to help you think about what you want in the community. So thank you. I think that's it.
Okay, so with that, if there's anything else from the city side, Douglas, or should we roll right into the Mentimeter?
I think if you don't mind, can we pause here and just see if we have any questions from the residents about that whole process? They can enter them into the chat if they want, and we can happily answer the question. And if we don't get any questions, then we can roll into our engagement exercise. And we'll just wait a moment longer, see if people are typing or looking for the chat function. The chat function should be at the bottom of your Zoom window. If you are watching from YouTube or Facebook, you'll have to actually join the Zoom room to use the chat function and for us to see your questions. And there is a delay between our Zoom broadcast and YouTube and Facebook. So let's just give it another moment here and see if we get any questions. Okay, well, don't be shy. If you do have a question, feel free to enter it in the chat and we can address it live. So Kimberly, I think we can go ahead with the engagement activity.
Okay, great. So, we've been, as we've all gone to more remote meetings, we've been really searching for ways to still make sure that we are engaging with community members, even if we aren't face to face. So we have what we think is a really fun tool to share with the community tonight in order to gather your feedback using an interactive survey. And you do see instantaneous results, which is the nice part of it. We all like to have, instant gratification. So one of the tools you do need, though, in order to complete the survey is it's easiest if you have a second device. So if you can grab your phone, if you have an iPad, a second computer. If you don't, that's okay too. You can just open a second window within your computer that you're using to log on to the meeting. And what we're going to ask you to do is log on to the website www.menti.com. And that is MENTI.com. And you should see a screen just like you see here where it says, please enter the code. And I am going to stop sharing this for just a moment and pull up another screen, and we can give you the code once we get the other screen pulled up. So just giving everyone a minute to grab that second device. So the code that you're going to enter, you can see here on the top of the white page, is 97720722. And that will continue to be at the top of the screen throughout this exercise. So the first handful of questions that we're posing this evening are really to understand who's in the virtual room and who's participating in the survey. Ultimately, as part of this process, it's very important for our team and the city to make sure we have a representative cross-section of the community participating in the process. So for tonight's meeting, if we see that we are missing some critical stakeholders, we'll know that we need to go back, reassess some of our outreach initiatives to make sure that we are reaching those critical community members and stakeholders as part of this process. So if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of the white screen, you can see the little people icon and the number 11 above that. So that's telling us that 11 people, now 12, have participated in the survey thus far this evening. So knowing that we have a number more than that, a number of more people in the room than 12, I'm going to give it just another minute to let people grab that other device and start answering this question. And even if you do log on after we've moved on to another question, you'll still be able to answer the questions that we've completed, and we'll still get the benefit of those results at the tail end once we compile all the results. Okay, so seeing that we have about 15 people that have participated at the moment, we are skewed to slightly more females participating this evening than males. And the next question is going to focus on age. So what kind of age representation do we have in our virtual meeting this evening? So if everyone can take a moment to answer this question. Okay, and looks like we have a high concentration of those in the 35 to 44-year-old age group, but we do have representation from young adults and seniors as well. We are missing that youth age group, but luckily we are, as Emma mentioned, meeting with some of the students at the local high school tomorrow, and we'll continue to look for opportunities to outreach to all age groups as part of this process. Our next question focuses on race. And we'll give folks a minute to answer this question. Okay, and based on early results here, we can see that we are over 70% white participating in the meeting this evening, and recognize there's a great amount of diversity within the larger community. Need to make sure that we are reaching out to a diversity of residents in addition to our meeting this evening. Our next question focuses on ethnicity. We'll give folks a minute to answer this. Okay, and here again, we can see about 70% not Hispanic or Latino, 25% Hispanic or Latino. And we know that that is a strong population group here in the community. So again, making sure that we are reaching that population group as part of our larger outreach efforts. Next question has to do with preferred language. And we are really focusing, the city is really focusing on this as a priority as part of outreach efforts, and making sure that information is available in English, Spanish, Swahili, Arabic, in addition to other languages that are prevalent within the community. And seeing here that for the purposes of this meeting, the preferred language, the majority is English. Okay, next question. What is your place of residence? So we have options for each of the quadrants within the city, downtown, outside of the city, but in the county, or outside of Lancaster County. And you can see here from the colorful chart that we do have a broad cross-section of representation, both from within the city itself, so representation from each of the 4 quadrants, as well as downtown. And then we do have some participants that do live outside of the city as well. Okay, and our last question before we really get into hearing your feedback is, do you work in the city of Lancaster? Okay, so seeing that 60%, a little over 60% of folks participating this evening do work within the city. And then the balance are working outside of the city. So thank you for that. That's helpful context for our team. So not that that wasn't fun, but now we do get into some of the fun questions where you really get to personalize your responses, which will really help our team understand what's important to you. So the first question posing is, in one word, how would you describe Lancaster to someone who has never been here? And we do make it tough by limiting to one word. Sometimes people use 2, and we don't take points off for that, but we like to get that quick snapshot. And as we walk through these, if there are additional comments that you would like to add to support your response to any of these questions, or just some additional anecdotal information that you feel it's important for our team and the city team to have, again, you can absolutely use the chat feature in order to provide any other feedback or comments or ask any questions as we proceed through this exercise. And one of the things we like to do as we're looking at the different words that come up is see if there's any kind of themes or trends associated with any of the words, any similarities or differences. You can see here that, historic, there are some words that have very positive connotations, like historic, unique, growing, and thriving are similar words. Welcoming, walkable, vibrant, livable, diverse. And then some other words that are important for us to be aware of as we're thinking about planning for the future of the city, like the term unequal or gentrified. Those are important terms for us to be aware of as things that are on your mind as community members. And if there is anyone, again, that wants to add context around why they chose the word that they chose, feel free to just drop your word in the chat and then add a little bit more narrative for us to really understand what your thought process was behind choosing that word. Our next question. And here you get to choose 3 options from this list. Please select the top 3 things that best represent why you love the city of Lancaster. And the options are walkability, people and diversity, small businesses and restaurants, the historic character, parks and open spaces, arts and culture, the unique neighborhoods, other, if we miss something that you think is important from this list, or none of the above. Okay, it looks like we have all our responses in. So my first reaction was always to gravitate to the other category because I'm always intrigued by what is on people's minds. So if you are one of the 2 people that selected other, I would invite you to add what you're thinking in the chat within the other category, again, just to provide our team a little bit more context around things that you love about the community today, so we can make sure we're focusing on them and finding ways to make sure we are preserving and protecting those assets. So I see one response coming in: connection to Amtrak and proximity to outdoor activities and other major metro areas. So those are great additions to that list. Thank you for adding that into the chat feature. So as everyone can see the results here, walkability did receive the most votes out of all of the different categories, and that's certainly a theme that we've been hearing. We held 4 of our advisory committee meetings today, and walkability was certainly a consistent theme that came up as part of those meetings as well, as did the importance of small businesses and restaurants and how important those locally owned businesses are to the community. And then really across the board, people, historic character, parks and open space, arts and culture, all received a handful of votes too, which I think also reflects kind of the many assets and resources that exist within the community today. So this is great feedback. And again, not just those that selected other, but if anyone else wants to expand on any of their thoughts related to this question, feel free to type in any additional context into the chat feature. Our next question, we focused on things you love. Our next question is, where are there areas for improvement? So please select the top 3 things that best represent what you would like to improve in the city. And the options are affordable housing options, safer streets for all modes and users, quality roads, bridges, water, sewer, so really focused on infrastructure, clean and green air, water, energy, and buildings, enhanced public safety, public services such as healthcare and education, and then enhanced and upgraded parks, green space, and playgrounds. We also do have the other category here if you feel we've missed something that needs to be improved, and then also the none option. Okay, I think we have another few that we'll just wait for to come in. And while we're waiting for any additional responses, I'm going to pick on the other in this instance too. We have one other: too much real estate dedicated to parking. So thank you. You answered my question before I even had to ask it. And then we just got another other to add to the mix. If anyone can also offer the additional other category, just so we have that for our records. And so clearly one of the biggest concerns and areas for improvement here, based on these results, is associated with affordable housing. And this is an area that, of course, the city is spending a lot of time thinking about and focusing on as part of a number of different initiatives. And again, a common theme that we have heard from a lot of community members, advisory committee members, and stakeholders that we've been talking to as part of this process. Again, just for I see we now have 3 others. So if everyone who selected other can add to the chat what their other category was. But also here ranking fairly high is clean and green air, water, energy, and buildings. So a real focus on environmental and clean processes and procedures. Again, here, if anyone wants to add any additional detail in the chat regarding why they selected the 3 areas that they did, please feel free to do so. Okay, and the next question. We're back to limiting you to one word, but in one word, how would you like to describe Lancaster City 20 years from now? Okay, we've got vibrant, sustainable, which goes back and connects to some of the feedback we got on the previous slide. A model community, I like that, right? And a community that other communities look to model their actions. You can see that sustainable, the text is a little bigger than the other responses. And that's telling us that more than one person has chosen that word to describe Lancaster 20 years from now. So that's definitely something that we see as a trend. World-class, resilient. And resilient can, that's a great word to use and can mean so many different things, from environmental resilience to people being resilient to economic resilience. So a really great all-encompassing word. You can see we've got diverse and still diverse, litter-free, all prosperous, livable, innovative, all really great word choices. And we hope that this plan puts you on the trajectory to achieve all of these terms over the next 20 years. So next question. As community members, you probably have a good handle on stakeholders, maybe some associated with some of the topics that we've been discussing tonight. If you feel there are key important stakeholders or organizations that we need to make sure that we are reaching out to and talking to proactively as part of this process in a very deliberate way, please feel free to add any of your thoughts here. So what other stakeholders should we be talking to? Conservation organizations, great, thank you. Can someone in the chat spell out the city can chime into the acronym, what the acronym LCSWMA stands for?
Lancaster County Solid Waste Management Authority.
Thank you, Emma. Small business owners, young professionals, they are the future. That's a great point, and also why we really do prioritize making sure we talk to students and youth as well as young professionals, recognizing all of them truly are the future of the community. The NAACP, the YWCA, great additions to that list as well. And if anyone thinks of anything after the fact, you can utilize the website in order to share additional information with our project team. Gold Goose Party, so I will have to follow up with the city to understand more about that stakeholder. SACA, who we're meeting with tomorrow, a really important organization, senior citizens, youth, bike commuters, places of worship, county, faith-based organizations, elderly neighbors, I see in the chat, dealing with issues of aging in place and challenges. That's a great comment. Thank you for that, Diana. Tenants, hourly workers. Okay, well, this is a great list that we will certainly make sure we as a project team working with the city go back and make sure that we are having touch points with all of these different groups and organizations to get their insights and their feedback into the planning process. And then a last question, and this is kind of a catch-all. So this is an opportunity for you to really share anything that you think is important for our team to consider related to the comprehensive planning process. What other topics have maybe we not touched on this evening, recognizing, right, this was a very high level overview, but what are some key elements or considerations that you feel are really critical to this planning process when thinking about the future of the community, both in the short term as well as thinking about that 20-year planning horizon? We'll give folks just a couple minutes because I know it takes a couple minutes to type into Mentimeter. There's got to be something else, something we missed or overlooked. There we go. Connecting the city to other resources like the River Trail, County Park. Great. That's a great comment. Connections, accessibility, poverty and equitable opportunities, critical, kind of one of the overarching threads that we're going to see really run through various topics as part of the planning process. I like the detail, publicly accessible bathrooms, right? So critical to the experience of park spaces in the public realm, whether you're a resident with small children or a visitor. So I like that detail, nuanced response to this. Thank you for that. Services for single parents and the elderly. More universal historic preservation regulations beyond the HARB. Flippers destroying historic character of our architecture, great. And we have heard from a lot of folks just how valuable that historic character is to really the culture and the identity of the physical spaces within the city. Increasing density and driving growth. Oops, sorry, can you scroll back up, Sam? Increasing density and driving growth in the city to prevent sprawl through the county. I liked the answer, tenants, hourly workers. I'm a renter now. I've struggled with landlords management. It has made me want to leave the city as I can't own yet. Okay, great. So understanding kind of renter rights, building energy efficiency standards, making sure that we are truly talking to all residents in a very deliberate way. Thank you for that comment. Considering the people who have had to move out of the city or people who would love to live in the city but can't afford it. So making sure there is accessible housing. And a second for the public restroom comment. Issues with landlords tied to housing as well. Again, the multimodal connections to places outside the city. So really looking at kind of the regional framework from an accessibility and multimodal perspective. Including more people in surveys, going door to door is an idea. Engaging at least 10% of the city's population. I think that's a great goal. Getting young people involved. We can scroll down just a little bit for that one. In a meaningful way, absolutely. That is one of our key objectives. Elder services and single parent services. And more notifications about this plan. So just getting the word out. So thank you for that comment as well. Climate change and environmental issues is certainly something, again, that we have heard heard at multiple meetings and from multiple stakeholders, and obviously a really important topic to consider, especially when we're looking at a longer term planning horizon. building out utilities like energy and broadband. Okay, well, there are some really great ideas that have come in and some feedback that we will certainly take into consideration and apply as we move forward in this process. Would certainly love each and every one of you in attendance tonight to go out and tell, 5 of your neighbors about the comprehensive planning process. If they don't know about them, directed them to the Engage website, the project website, let them know about our meetings on Thursday, tomorrow, and Friday of this week. And just want to, again, thank you for taking time out of your evening to attend this meeting. And I'm going to hand it back over to Douglas for some final remarks.
Thanks, Kimberly. I realized that I actually didn't fully recognize your consulting team earlier, so I just want to give a shout out to you, Kimberly, and Sam and Dave from Bergman, who are on video here, and also Steve Nelson and Kimberly Stever from Eastwick Solutions, as well as Jackie Rocco from Eastwick too. Did I get all of the consulting members on here? I think I did. I also see that Corey's was in the meeting earlier too. I don't know if he's still here, but he's a part of the Connect the Dots team that is working with the comprehensive plan committee too. So yes, I just want to reiterate Kimberly's comments that we're really thankful for your feedback. And I want to pass it off to Mayor Sirachi for concluding remarks.
And I just want to echo Douglas's thanks to everyone for participating tonight. I really appreciate and welcome everybody's feedback. And I just want to echo Kimberly's charge to all of us, which is to tell 5 of our neighbors and to get us to that 10% goal, which is a really laudable goal to aim for. I want to just call your attention to Engage Lancaster, as well as the events that we reviewed that are coming up tomorrow, and there will be many more events that will be out and about related to the comprehensive plan. And I just have to say, listening to the responses to the questions as part of this process is so illuminating for us. And it really does have real-time impact as well as future planning impacts. And so I thank you all for making the time to join us tonight. And thank you to the city team and to Bergman teams for being a part. Good night.